Another episode of 15 with the Buns. I am Yubi, and yes, we've been on a 2-week hiatus. Real life got a little crazy. HB and I were sick. I had a birthday.
Blah.
And we're just busy as fuck. So we apologize, but we're back. No clue what number this is. If you guys have been trying to hit the site, you'll notice it's been experiencing some technical difficulties. I apologize for that. In the next few weeks, I plan on addressing that once things in the real world calm the F down, which hopefully won't take that long. But the way things are going, it might even be longer. So I'm aware of it. I'm working on it. And also, I know a lot of people had issues with the forum colors. I have a buddy taking a look at that. So there are good things in the works. And I guess there almost will be like a little relaunch when all of that happens. So just stay tuned, and we'll keep you updated as far as the cast goes. I don't know if I introduced. I'm Yubi, and Buns.
And I'm Buns! Hey! It's HP, guys. What's up? You know what? Since you were talking so long, I'm going to do my quick shout-out here. Well, actually, a few shout-outs, all right.
All right.
I feel like I'm about to misquote something, and I feel so bad because I... Hang on. Say something. Just say words for a second.
Potato, mashed potato. Are you Googling right now to make sure you don't misquote?
No. What's the Spock quote? I was going to say Spock died while we didn't do our cast.
Oh, jeez, he
Isn't that
did.
patience is a virtue, or is that's not...
Live long and prosper.
Oh, live long and prosper. That's right. He died.
R.I.P. One of the greats. Yes, he did.
Shout out to Spock, dude. That was kind of sad when I saw that. Also, you know, that's a commemorative shout out. Cool show, cool guy.
For sure.
Shout out to Russell Westbrook for being a god of point guards.
Woo!
At least I can embody my vision of Derrick Rose inside of that man. And my final shout out goes to Muffins. Even though due to my recent activity on TI, things have not been looking great. On the other hand, today I logged on TI, and I did have a nice picture waiting for me of my warrior that Muffins made for me. So thank you, Muffins, for making the picture. I appreciate it. I'll definitely find a way to use it.
All right, and I'm going to take the stance of HB normally and not give any shout-outs this week because I haven't really been playing. So, and Westbrook was a good one. I should have thought of that.
You can do a shout-out to Pankos. Shout-out Pankos. You can take that one from me.
Okay, shout-out to Pankos. And go Notre Dame! All right.
We'll take it.
What the hell are we going to talk about? I feel so lost and confused. It's been too long, Bonds. I'm completely out of rhythm.
Well, Shift M for a mini-map, because I'll guide you in the gulch. We are going to talk straight 19 overview.
Someone please quote that and put it to posterity.
We're just going to talk about overview, how are 19s doing right now. I think first and foremost, let's start with what a good job people have been doing promoting 19s, promoting the Twin Cup, promoting the bracket, promoting different servers within the bracket, promoting different guilds, creating different atmospheres. There's been a lot of work going into 19s lately, and it's paying off. We're seeing things like on Sundays and Saturdays, queues as early as 1 Eastern Time, PM, going till as late as 5 a.m. Eastern Time. So the queue times for 19, the queue times for 19s have been going insane. During peak hours, you'll see anywhere from 2 to 3 games going at once. It's been awesome. There's been some guild war games going on. And the nice thing too that's happened that's coming up. Here's where I really want to start. In the first time in a long while, we're starting to see some people that are. Oh, okay. There's starting to be a little more diversity on servers again, a little bit more.
So people are branching out from the Breeding Hollow hub?
Breeding Hollow? Why has no one said that before? That is, oh my god.
It's the breeding ground for Trinks.
Breeding ground. No one's ever said that before. Breeding Hollow. I think that's great. No, but honestly, there's Probably in the last few weeks. Well, MYT was always on Arthas, and they
Mm-hmm.
had a very big community over there. But there was another guild over there as well that was kind of separate from MYT called like FU. Can read this. You are dead. But they've been kind of like low key hanging around, and they've started building up. I've seen them running 5-mans the last few days, and they're separate from MYT, so two completely different guilds on a different server on Horde, and then a major guild on BH Horde, Filthy Casual, went over to Arthas and merged with MYT. So we're starting to see Arthas is like a really big server now. I haven't seen a guild pop up on Arthas Alliance, but there are definitely tunes from Arthas Alliance, and you're seeing, so Arthas Horde is getting big. I've seen some people from like Area 52, a fair amount, but definitely some more server diversity, and the fact where it literally used to just be like BH or die
So,
for like the past
do you
two
think
expansions.
that possibly all the talk of the Twink Cup and seeing how big the prize pool is and that this is going to be a legitimate competition is helping spur sort of the increased activity and then, seeing
Yeah.
people pop up off of Breeding Hollow?
Well, I think it's a few things. Let's look at, I think first and foremost, like you said, you nailed it on the head, there's just a lot of people out there right now that are really getting the word out about 19s, getting the word out there about the Twin Cup, and people are really excited, I think, to try 19s and try the game because, honestly, endgame is pretty fucking awful right now. And for whatever reason, I should rephrase that. For multiple reasons, people don't want to be involved in endgame activities right now. So you're seeing that a lot of people are trying out Twinks, and 19s are in a pretty stable position, and not 100% balanced, but definitely like in a good spot. And there's activity. It's a different look. So you're seeing people do that. Now, the second thing to go along with that, why I think we're seeing people maybe a little more spread out too, is that you can thank Blizzard on this one because the fact that now that you can wargame and queue up wargamed pre-mades, whether it be Warsong or Arenas via Battle.net now, has completely changed the necessity for everyone being on one hub. It used to be like, hey, like everyone being on one server is awesome because you can just queue up pre-mades from there, have your leader there, all the guilds there, more competitiveness, more activity. You just see more people. And the fact now that there's not /Who19, it used to be a nice benefit of being on BH to just see who's around, see who's online. Now that things are very active, you've got some benefits thrown in there by Blizzard promoting war games, etc., and making it more accessible cross-server. We're starting to see people branch out from that. And also, the final thing I think, too, is it's so easy to make a 19 Twink, man. I made a priest on Horde the other day. It took me an hour and a half, and I spent 6K, and my Twink's done. That's nothing.
You got it leveled and geared in an hour and a freaking half?
Yes. Seriously, like, I level it, takes an hour. Do 2 satchels. Because think about it, man. Look. On the whole left side of your gear, the whole left side, the only thing that you have to get is Bracer. Think about that.
Yeah, you just
Head,
need some shiny
neck,
bracelets.
Shoulder, cape, chest. That's it, man. You get bracers, you get gloves, you get belt, you get boots, and you get 2 rings, and you got yourself
Dude,
a
and
twin.
how... I mean, yes, we could mail BOAs cross-server and stuff, but for
Yeah.
anyone that's like me, you just lose half the shit and end up spending half hour and really think about investing in a mailbox secretary just to keep all your shit straight.
Yeah.
But just being able to go in and make multiple copies of stuff,
Yep.
I really like that.
Oh, it's awesome, man. I'll tell you, though, that I'm really stingy. I know there's people out there that are, like, already, like, they have all their characters full sets with full rings, full necks, full everything. I don't have enough money to be doing that, unfortunately.
No.
So I'm still sending a lot of my BOAs to Tunes, just because I'm a penny pincher right now. And I'm a person right now that, when I get bored currently, I'll make a 19. I made my priest on the Horde, like I said, like hour and a half. Like, it's not hard anymore to get a twin. If you have some money lying around, probably costs anywhere from 5 to 8K to make a geared twink. And in retrospect, like, that's really not that much money right now. Like, 5 to 6K may seem like a lot, but then again, like, there's the auction house, everything's inflated right now. Like gold
Yeah,
is.
and I was talking with Franchi, and he was saying through Garrisons, he's making several K a day just doing his Garrison missions. And I think he's got some sort of side venture he
Yeah.
figured out that makes extra money. I mean, if you have a max level tune and you do your
Mhm.
Garrisons, it's a very easy way to get those crazy expensive enchants like the ring and the
Mhm.
neck, and I guess the cloak one too would probably be the top of the money board at this point.
And then also to go with that too, those things in your garrison, like, hey, like I'm gonna get an enchanting table, and I'm gonna be able to get some of my own mats for some of these enchants that maybe cost a little bit more, otherwise. So you're saving yourself money in that way as well. But going off of that, 19s have been very active. The nice thing is that there's been a lot of people recently that have been having tunes on both sides, so you've definitely see people swapping around to try to make games not so faction oriented and heavily siding one faction.
So with that, one of my main questions slash concerns is that I know from previous talks that there's been significant issues with, say, an overabundance of a certain class. I know rogues is a popular one
Yeah.
that seems to pop up. Are those still present, or are you seeing with people now taking the initiative to switch sides and try and balance stuff out that that's not quite the epidemic it once was?
I would say that as of now, there's a pretty decent amount of class balance. You'll get a game every now and then and you're like, oh, they got like 3 boomkins, or oh, where I'm in a 5 rogue game. But,
Yeah.
I think that people have gotten to the point where it literally like sucks being in games. Where like there's certain classes where it's like if you have 3 or 4 of, it
Mhm.
works out, and depending on what the other team has, they can handle it, or
Yes.
it's just vice versa. It's actually so bad you're just gimping yourself. Like 4 or 5 rogues that don't know what they're doing, like is so bad, so bad. Like, and nothing makes me more mad than like getting in a game with 4 or 5 rogues that don't know what they're doing. I literally go like ape shit in BG chat for either worse. Like, but I think that hasn't been such a huge issue. There's been people that have multiple classes now. I think the accessibility of just being able to make a twink very easily has made a lot of people try multiple classes. Like right now, currently my favorite twink is something that I've really never played before, and it's priest.
What caused you to roll that? Because that's definitely outside of your wheelhouse, or at least from what I know of you being your wheelhouse.
It's not in the fact. Here's something we could talk about too. That's I like playing twinks where I can like maximize what I'm doing and really be. I like playing twinks where I'm always doing something all the time. I feel like wow, I could have been putting a little more damage out, or I could have healed that guy there. Could have had better positioning. I like to maximize what I'm doing. I think that you can do that on almost every class, but I just think that priest has the potential to do a lot of things, and the fact that it can go offensive, defensive, can be assisted positioning wise, etc. I like priest because I like classes that are hybrids, and that's going to sound really weird, but like Disc Priest right now is a hybrid, whereas like you had
Well, they've been
something
that
like,
way for a while, kind of, right? That's not necessarily something new.
well, I think it is in the perspective that you look at like mop and you're like, oh, hybrids. We're looking at like off healers and stuff like that. We're looking at boomkins. We're looking at
Like the
Ellie Shamans.
traditional. Okay.
But this time around, boomkins, yeah, they're viable. Ellie Shamans, yes, you can make them viable. But look, boomkins are just straight doing damage. The rejuves are like 90 every 3 seconds. So it's not like they're doing anything significant off healing everyone. On the other hand, you have an Ellie Shaman where, yeah, you have a ton of purges and you can heal and really offer a lot, but doing damage is not in your wheelhouse anymore. Well, Priest is one of those classes right now. It's kind of flipped. You have some healer classes that are the potential to do damage. Like, Priest can crank out so much damage if you play it that way. And so can Resto Druid. Resto Druid can do a lot of damage if you play it that way.
Mm-hmm.
On my priest the other day, I was doing a game. I think it was yesterday. I did like 170k damage or something.
Jesus.
Yeah, just literally you literally just spread, and you use every single.
And that's
fucking
still.
penance
I mean, are you
offensively.
keeping up with the quote-unquote healer role that the disc is traditionally supposed to fit, or are you playing more focused on doing the deep side of things?
Well, I think that the traditional way, where you're just straight healing, needs to be a lot. I think a lot of people are stuck playing that mindset, and I think that Priest offers way too much currently on the tool, just its whole toolkit right now, to be playing that defensive. You need to be like helping assist damage, throwing every single penance that you can afford offensively, looking to Holy Fire, spread damage. I just think that Bubble's so good. Like, Bubble is literally like, you should use it as a safety net, but at the same time, you can also use Bubble to keep your team offensive, and almost as like, give yourself a few extra seconds to keep yourself offensive.
Well, yeah.
I think that you should be using the penances, or I think you should be using penance offensively, and I think you should use bubbles to either really catch yourself and help catch your midfield up if you have to play defensive, or to keep your teammates offensive while you continue doing damage. So, yes, I think that, Priests are in a really good state. They're the best hybrid, in my opinion.
Well, or is there something else you want to say on Priests?
No, but I was going to talk about Druid real quick, too.
Okay.
Because Resto Druid is like, Resto Druid can do, I don't think it's going to do as much damage on the meters, but single target damage, it can do a lot of damage because it can.
And is this still off, Ferocious Bite?
Yeah, but it can do spread damage too, man. I'll tell you, if you play with Elemental Force and you're spreading Moonfires and like, Wrathing and stuff, and the thing is with Resto Druid too, Resto Druid's different than Priest in the fact that, like, you literally should be playing offensively, like, almost all the time, and if you have healers in midfield, like, you literally should not be healing anyone except yourself, or if you really need to save someone, because, like, you're not going to save someone most of the time. Like, your heals Resto Druid heals are so bad at 19, man. They're just missing some things that they get later on the line that makes them, like, better. But at 19, they're really bad.
Huh.
Yeah.
I did not. That surprises me to hear you say that. It seems like we've been down a long string of Druids are pretty freaking good.
No, they've been bad since they're good in the fact that, like, in Arena, they can go really offensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if they don't capitalize on that time when they go offensive, they have a really hard time catching up. Because even though Regrowth crits so much, it's only healing about 700, and that's full versatility.
Just to put it in comparison, what's, say, Healing Surge or Flash Heal or something going for?
Flash Heal and, like, Healing Surge are going for, like, 1K.
Okay, so that's going to add up pretty quick.
Non-crits.
Oh, shit. Okay,
Regrowth
yeah, that's definitely
is
going to...
for 700. So, that's why, like, you can really only afford to, like, catch yourself, or if you really have to save, like, a certain DPS, you're like, or you got to save an FC or something, you really have to pump, but, like, most of the time it's just not worth it. It's better for you to kill something that's causing damage to your team than, like, heal.
Try and heal through the damage. That's kind of counterintuitive, but that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's something new to the bracket, and the fact that normally you have your hybrid classes that, are playing their hybrid roles, but it's kind of changed in the fact that now there's some healers that can do that, and your hybrids are doing other things now.
Okay. Now, the question I would like to ask you is, what classes would you like to see more of in the Gulch? Like, what are some that are underrepresented that you feel, if the proper Twink Tailor tried to dress them for success, they could go in there and have a positive impact?
You know what? Before I go on this rant here, I'd like to note that there are a lot of classes that if there's one or two of them in a game, let me rephrase that. There's a lot of classes that fall under a category of potentially viable, depending on who's playing them.
Okay.
That's a big category name. But you can only really afford to have like one or two of them on your team. And it depends who's playing them as if they're viable or not. Let me give you some examples here. Like Ret Paladin. Ret Paladin is a great it's a solid off healer, can offer some really nice burst damage with Verdict and some of its melee, and Crusader really benefits Ret Paladins very well. Ret Paladins can offer a lot by floating on defense too, or landing Hodges on healers and pushing for FCs and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can't just be a Ret Paladin that's doing damage all the time, because Ret Paladin's not going to be it's not going to be a meters thing. It's going to be positioning, where you are at the right moment. Did you get that clutch LOH off when your team needed it? Stuff like that.
I feel like if you say, like you're saying, if you have the right person playing it too, having something like a Hodge in there's got to be nice, especially if you're pushing for that kill, and they can provide like that TV burst.
And actually, it's too bad Nick's not here, because Nick's been playing Ret the past 2 weeks, and he's loving it, man. He loves Ret. He
actually mentioned that to me. He was saying he really likes it.
Yeah, a defensive. You set, traditionally right now. The meta's kind of shifted where you have like midfield, and then you have a few people floating on D.
Nice.
Ret can float D, like for sure. You literally, if you sit on cap, and like you throw the Hodge in immediately on like whoever goes and gets the flag, like you force trinket every time. So like that's a trinket out of the way, and you do damage in that, and then hopefully you get some assistance from someone else, or maybe another CC goes off and it's a kill kind of thing. Another class that I think has a lot of potential, depending who's playing it, is actually Ellie Shaman.
That I'm interested to hear about.
I like to play Ellie Shaman, but to play Ellie Shaman, it requires that there are other DPS on your team. Ellie Shaman will not do DPS, and if you're playing Ellie Shaman to do DPS, you're not playing it right.
So how do you play it right?
Ellie Shaman needs to be there to have a high health pool. Like you need to be sitting close to like 3k health in mid, and you need to be alive. And you basically, what you do is you spam purge. I have a mouse over purge, so I'll literally just mouse over purge everything on the field. Get bubbles off, get envelops off, get hots off, get dots off, get procs off. Just completely nullify the other team. Because think about this. Someone was talking to me about this the other day. In a pre-made point, in an actual competitive game point, this makes a lot of sense. It's like, if you have a resto... Sorry, my voice is like all over the place. If you have a resto shaman and you have a disc priest, which one of those classes would you rather have go offensive? And in a weird perspective, your immediate answer would be like, oh, a disc priest, like they can do so much damage.
Doesn't that kind of also depend upon the setup of the defense you're looking at?
Well, with all these teams where you see teams where priests and mistweavers can just pump out so much, and those spells can be purged, it's like, you know what, in a global, if they're purging off bubbles, that's like, in a weird way, that's like 1,000 damage if you're purging off a bubble. Yeah,
well, I guess, like for Mistweaver especially, they're probably counting on enveloping getting its full duration. I mean, that's substantial, and if you can just get that off after a tick, that's a couple chi that they got to build back up, and they're like, oh, fuck, and in that time, you can pump that out, and they don't have that security blanket they thought was just going to be keeping them nice and warm.
Right. So going from an Ellie Shaman perspective, whereas a Resto Shaman, a lot of time you're dedicated to being like, sometimes you have to heal, you got to dispel, you got to do other things. There's more on you than just, hey, I can go purge bot the whole game. Ellie Shaman is literally there to purge bot the whole game. Your 1.8k mana pool will be dedicated to purge botting and off healing like DPS targets that need to stay up. Targets on your team that need to stay up. Like literally, I'll spread a little bit. And the nice thing about LE 2 is where melee are so strong right now, you can really punish melee that are overextended. And that's something that like, warrior charges in and they're gonna go run the world and you punt them into your team and he dies. Well, that's good. You take the biggest DPS out of mid right there. So I think LE Shaman has a place, but it's one of those classes, like all these classes I'm going to list, it's like if you have more than one of them on your team, it's like you're in trouble. Because 2 LE Shamans, it's a lot of utility. What's going to do your damage?
Yeah, but what's the expense that it's coming at? Right. What's the opportunity cost? All right, so what's another one? Or actually, what do you think about Demo Locks, since Diddle brought that up in the chat?
Demo Locks do an insane amount of damage. Demo Locks are very similar to priests, minus the fact that they can't heal.
That seems like
but
a big
they have
difference.
more mobility. Well, it's not. The playstyle is very similar. You literally, like, Demo Lock spread can do a lot of damage. Every now and then, if you choose to use the DPS the way you want to,
Mm-hmm.
you can burst. Most of the time you'll use Gul'dan to spread, though, so Chaos Wave you can burst with or whatever, but most of the time you'll use it to spread damage. Meter-wise, you can compete with Boomkins, you can compete with the best of them on a good Demo Lock. It's just that it's literally AIDS damage. So, like...
So you're counting on things like Ellie Force to prop up that damage?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that it's different than, like... Fighting a Demo Lock is different than fighting an Arcane Mage with 4 stacks, where, like, at 4 stacks, every 2 seconds you're getting pumped for, like, 800 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Demo Lock is spreading in the entire team and doing, like, 800 damage or 1,000 damage with full dots up to an entire team every second, but it's not on one player. It's spread out amongst people.
It's easier for the healers to...
Right, exactly. It's easier for the healers to do. They do have some great things, though, like they offer everyone Health Stones, which I think is very relevant. They have Soul Stone, which I think is viable, especially in a pug standpoint. And the fact that they have mobility to get away and get themselves out of bad positions or leap in and get CC, I think is viable. I would rather, I think that Affliction would be more interesting than Demo in a way. But you'd have to be like, you'd almost have to like know that the other team was going to have a Shaman. Like if the other team
need that Purge, or not the Purge, the Dispel. I'm sorry.
It's a weird situation because if the other team had a Shaman, you're like, you know what? That's going to be super effective, and it's going to let your Boomkins keep their dots up and keep that pressure up. But you're playing Demo against a Shaman, and they can just dispel everything. But then again, you're queuing into pugs, so pick your poison. It's just kind of what it is. I like Demo.
One more class after Demo.
One more class. Hello?
No potatoes. One more class.
No potatoes. One more class. One more class. Okay. Do I have to pick one? Okay, fine.
Just pick one.
Windwalker Monk.
Alright.
Windwalker Monk. I've only seen like 2 people make Windwalker Monk viable. That's how difficult it is, and that's how like you have to really think about what you're doing. On classes that are unviable or it takes a lot to make them viable, you need to think about what is your role. And I think that you should be thinking about that on any class you play, but on the underpowered classes, you really have to think about it. It's like, what is my role? Why am I in this war song, and where is my place in this war song? Windwalker can play defense. Windwalker is really good on defense. Since the meta is right now Guardian Druid, Windwalker's actually probably the only melee class besides Feral that can keep up with Druids. The fact that they have Serpent Kick, Double Roll, Lust gives them a lot of speed and gap closers to catch a Druid.
Yeah.
And playing on D, you play on top of the flag, you play in the flag room, and you get a fist off on an FC. You're going to make them trinket that immediately, and then you're going to have pressure after that. And, it's just a lot. You combine that with another class, you combine that with a Hunter or something else too, it's just like a lot of pressure. Also, if it ever gets to like a midfield standpoint, you go with a more stam-oriented set, 2.8 to 3k, get a fist off on a healer or something like that. Your fist does so much damage and puts so much pressure. It's just like Ret. Like, you're going to force a trinket almost every time on someone that gets fisted or hodged. So in that standpoint, it's like, you go in, you hit someone, and you go out. And then when you're not doing something viable, Windwalker has things to offer other classes to make them viable, like giving a teammate a friendly Lust, helping your FC out, being around your teammates just to give them that extra 10% movement speed. Some other things that I think go unnoticed, but there's certain players that have figured, this is the full extent of the class. This is how I can benefit my team. So, I guess that's where I feel on Windwalkers. I think they're good, but once again, you can't have a team of 5 Windwalkers. Like, you'll just lose.
Okay, this is where I want to go next. You've kind of alluded to this before. Yes, you're there.
Okay.
You alluded to this before with saying how the meta is kind of shifting a little bit. or at least there's a minor change in it with having Rets. You can keep them on D. And also something I found interesting was when you were talking about Ellies and how having them in there for purges now is very important. Like they're going to be a purge bot. I'm not sure there was a place for a purge bot in the prior iteration of the meta. So what are some of the other shifts you're seeing as far as the actual gameplay goes? Are you seeing almost like a pseudo O&D being possible as opposed to just that midfield, mid-chop sort of thing?
I think that, yeah, well, kind of. You kind of like, depends on what your team comp is, man. It really does. It depends on what your team comp is. A lot of times right now you'll see Hunters float D. Hunters are like one of the best classes for running down Druids and giving Druids trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see Rogues sometimes float D. You'll see Pharaohs float D. You'll see Windwalker Rets float D. You'll also see some of these classes sometimes try to FC too, just because of, maybe they don't have a Druid or vice versa. They have to have someone FCing. There's some weird stuff going on right now, man. You'll see, I think it's weird in the fact that, like, mid matters for sure, but it almost, like, it's kind of like a buffer, almost. Like, it matters and it doesn't matter. I don't know how to explain it. In a pre-made standpoint, like, if you went full team in mid, that's stupid. Like, that's really dumb of you if you go full team mid.
So let's take a look at this from a pre-made setting. And I know the Twin Cup is months in advance, but I just think it's kind of interesting to theorize how things could be changing. So what do you think could be some changes as far as meta strategies go looking forward?
Well, right now I think we're in the mix of one currently where we're having teams figure out, I think teams are trying to figure out what is our play style, which is good. I don't think we haven't seen this in a while. I think guilds are evaluating, what are we good at? How can we have success? And we're seeing some different things from other guilds. So there's some variety here. You'll see a team maybe sit 1 on D. You'll see a team sit 2 on D. You'll see a team sit 3 on D. You'll see a team that doesn't sit any on D and pushes full team mid.
Mm-hmm.
I think different things, different opinions of everything. The thing that's almost interesting to me is that if a team does sit someone D, it's usually a hunter and like a rogue or something, or another melee class like that.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing for me is like, what class do you send? What are you sending with your FC to get him out? I think is almost a more interesting thing. It's like, what are you doing to send him out? Because like right now you have a druid. That's pretty much the preferred FC right now. It's interesting.
So do you look at something like this is, I guess, would kind of screw your midfield, but if, say, they're keeping a Ret and the Hodge is a constantly looming threat, do you send something like a Chamois up there?
You could, yeah, you definitely could.
Or...
Yeah, I think you could. There's a lot of different things you can do, man. That's why I'm having a hard time, like, really specifying, but, I almost don't want to, like, specify, too.
You don't want to give away any of your shit?
Well, no, not in that sense, but in the sense that...
It's too early to tell? What?
It's almost being built as we're talking right now. Like, different teams do different things. Like, you'll see some teams that are, like, maybe they send multiple...
Let's rephrase it like this, then. What have you seen so far that's been successful? That you're like, oh, that's innovative, that's unique, maybe I should try that, or hey, props to you for figuring that out and giving it a shot.
I think right now, in a pre-made setting, you'll see teams either go really heavy mid, and they'll try to send like a few people up tunnel with their FC to pick. They either send their druid on their own and see if he can get out, which is a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
They send like another stealthy with their druid to get him out, and hopefully the two of them can get out. So you'll see a mix of things, and there's penalties. There's something to go with each decision you make.
Well, it almost seems like it's a gambit. Like there's a high risk reward. It's like, do you send your druid in there solo, or do you say, let's just use Chamois since I brought that example up earlier. Set you at a disadvantage for mid, but if they have the Ret waiting there, it's like, oh, I'm so fucking glad I brought that Chamois. If that Ret or no one's waiting there, you're like, oh crap, we just removed a very important piece of our midfield
Yeah.
strategy from the game.
And I think teams are really hesitant, too, to immediately send a healer, too, because if you immediately send a healer, I mean, that's not good for your mid presence.
No, not at all.
So that's why I think that it's game to game. That's why I'm having a hard time like really describing it. It depends like who's playing too. Like some people are just like more amped to go help an FC. Like for instance, like Aotasaka is someone that really sometimes they'll play D, sometimes they'll go with the FC and help them pick. You'll just see a mix of things from different players. It's something that's changed a little bit in the meta. I think that you'll see some teams are doing this. Like some teams will sit a few people D, and some teams don't. And that's teams trying to figure out like what's their like team personality almost. Like what are they doing? What gives them success? What do they feel like they can have the most success at? If they feel like they can go full 10 in mid, they go full 10 in mid. If they want to sit 1 or 2 on D to get the FC, to give them some troubles, they do that. You're seeing teams with a lot of variety coming in, which is making things interesting.
So what about we're having a lot of new people come into the bracket for reasons we discussed, such as Twink Cup and just a lot of promotion going on within the bracket. Outside of the obvious, such as gearing and enchanting, what would be the 3 top things that you would suggest for someone that's coming into the bracket either for their first time or stopping by after a prolonged break?
First thing I would suggest to someone that's coming into the bracket is check out sites like twinkinfo.com and bisnation.net, because you got to put yourself in a situation where you have information and resources and other people in the bracket that can help you get yourself familiarized with how the bracket works, where people are in the bracket, what servers are active, what guilds you might be interested in joining, what gear guides look at, etc., etc. I think that there's so much information on these sites for people to come into the bracket and not know about that. It's a huge missed opportunity for people's 19 Twink experience or any Twink experience in general, in my opinion. I think secondly, too, I think people have the tendency to blame others, and this is something I've preached for a really long time now since free-to-play. It's one thing. The one thing I really took out of free-to-play, it's like, what could I have done better? And I think that people struggle with that, but I think the people that really work on themselves is like, what literally could I have done better? Like, you can always find something better. Like, literally, you never have a perfect game. Like, if you have a perfect game, like, you didn't. Like, look at it again. No, I'm serious, and I know that sounds really silly.
I'm laughing just because I agree, and I can hear the voices of 100 angry tinkers saying, "No, I did that perfectly." It's like, motherfucker, no, you didn't.
It's like you could play an arena, you could be priest mage, you could sheep the healer 3 times back to back to back, get the kill, and be like, you know what, that was a perfect game. We CC'd him perfectly. I got him on the CS after the last sheep. You know, we played a perfect game, we killed him. And you go against another team, do the exact same thing, except you because in reality, let's say you wasted 5 seconds on your sheeps, even though you sheeped them 3 times in a row. Let's say the first sheep you only waited 4 or 5 seconds, and you sheeped him again. And the second sheep, you sheeped him immediately after that, rather than waiting for the full duration of CC to go off. Or something like, hey, you know, I'm playing a priest or a resto druid. It's like, were there globals where I could have been doing something to help a teammate, whether it was topping them off just a little more, spreading a little damage? Am I moving? Am I keeping myself in a good position? There's always something that you can work on, and I think that's what twinks that are really trying to take it to the next level will always look at. And it doesn't mean that you're always at fault for the major things, but you should look on what you could have done better before you ask of other people. And I think that that's a hard thing for a lot of people to get a grasp on. But if you do get a grasp on it, it's going to make you a better player, and it's going to attract people that have that same kind of thinking towards you.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. It's kind of been an underlying theme when we do a lot of these, like, state of the bracket or improve the game or whatever podcasts. It's look inward and then look outward. But just realize that sometimes you might make a mistake, as crazy as that sounds.
And then I would say finally for, like, the last thing going into, for someone coming back, getting involved in twinking for the first time, is I would really have a I mean, you don't have to be Mr. like Peppy, like talking BG chat all the time, because I'm sure no one wants to do that either. Like people get turned off by that as well. But having a good attitude, like, and just this kind of goes back to the site, but like having a good attitude and finding people you can hook up with and get involved with, I think is really good in the twinking community. Um, Obviously, not everyone and their mother is gonna want to play with you. But you probably will find at least a person or a guild that you
There
can hang
might
out
be
with.
one lone soul that's
Yeah.
just like you. You just need to find them.
And it's like personally, like I say that because like recently too, like my guild's been getting a lot of interest for people that are like wanting to join, etc. And it's like well, for me, I feel like I'm a pretty nice person, pretty level-headed person. I feel like a dick turning people down, but I just know like a lot of time I turn a lot of people down. And I just like it's just our group of guys really mesh well together.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that certain people wouldn't mesh well. You kind of have to look as a person that's looking to join a group of people. You have to look at it from the other side of the perspective and look at it from the guild's perspective. It's like, what is the guild looking for currently? What do they need? What type of environment are they hosting? Do you fit that type of environment? These are some of the questions that people that are in charge of like recruiting may be looking at when they're looking at you. And it might not have to do with the fact that you're a bad person. It just might have to do with you don't match up. Like for me, like I would say that I challenge myself to play very well in the Gulch, but at the same time, like, during the game, like, I, like, fucking, like, scream, like, I just scream belligerent words, and, like, I don't take it very seriously. Like, I'll literally just, like, sit there after a game, I'm like, you fucking Diglett, get the flag! And, like, call people, like, Pokemon.
Because everyone's gonna understand. Like, wait? Did I just call the Diglett? Is that a good
Yeah.
thing or a bad thing? I don't even know what's going on right now.
And then you have, like, props to, like, MYT, they're really coming out. I used to really when Nasty MYT first came around, I used to like really not like him for his attitude, but he's someone that's definitely like really dedicated to twinking in general.
Hmm.
He just has a very different outlook. But I mean, I read through his recruitment thread the other day, and he has the same thing. It's just another perspective. They're looking for people that are like a more mature atmosphere. They're looking for people that are like maybe older players. So they're kind of looking at it from a different perspective, and especially in a 19 standpoint, that's pretty rare in the sense that I think a lot of people that play 19s are pretty young, college or younger, and then you have a guild like that that's it's a little more of an adult atmosphere, and they expect different things out of different guilds. I gave a few examples there, but I think getting yourself involved in either a guild or having a few friends coming either with you into the bracket or just finding your way in the bracket. And either one of those is a way to go too. You don't necessarily have to bring people with you to twinking because you'll find people in twinking that like twinking.
It is always nice though if you can bring in a familiar face. It's good for you. It's good for your friend because you have someone to talk with and you already have that rapport. So it's much easier to be like, hey, did I fuck up there? Did you fuck up? What's going on? And you can laugh about it as opposed to, no, it was that other person. And also, if you're going into a new atmosphere, it's just that familiarity where you have a buddy. And another thing, it's like you're saying with the guilds going up on Arthless, MIT, and such, it seems like there's an opportunity that didn't necessarily exist in the bracket prior for different types of players.
Yeah, no, There's just a lot of different venues right now, a lot of different guilds, a lot of different atmospheres. You also got, on Alliance, Bleeding Hollow, Conk's making a huge new guild called Paradox Genesis.
I really like
They
that
started
name.
it a few weeks
I'm not
ago.
sure why, but I really like that name.
No, yeah, it's that's an all-inclusive guild. It's a huge guild. They're looking for anyone on Alliance Bleeding Hollow. Pretty much take anyone. They're good people. They're trying to figure out where they stand skill-wise and how they're doing pre-made-wise, but they're more of an inclusive atmosphere. So if you're just looking for somewhere to hang out, that's another type of guild.
Is that not incredibly important to the overall health of a bracket?
Yeah, have variety, and exactly. I think having that variety and having those different atmospheres is important, just because it gives that fluctuation of different players.
Yeah, and it gives people you and I. Well, I'm still not that good, but you needed your place to grow and learn, and do your thing. And if everything was all only elitist, you can't get in here unless you have this, you have that, you may never have reached alpha status, Buns.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything else you want to get in here?
Diddle also said that he's starting a guild on Illyria or Khadgar and join a guild Idolize, and they're building a team for the cup. So that's awesome, Diddle. So check on over Illyria or Khadgar US to Idolize as a guild coming up. See, there's just a lot of guilds spurting up.
That actually brings something else I wanted to mention. I've had a lot of people that hit me up, and they're like, I'd like to get on a team. They'll make posts on TI or in the forums and such, and they'll be like trying to generate some interest, but there's not really a whole lot of traction. Do you think that's
I like that idea. Okay.
So, I mean, I'm trying to think.
Like maybe some suggestions. Yeah. I think that.
Because I kind of feel bad. I'm telling people, like, go check TI or give BIS Nation a few weeks for reasons we stated at the front of the cast. But there's really not a whole lot of response. It's like, hey, I'd like to be in here, and the thread disappears in a day, or they'll get, like, 2 hits. So it's like there's a lot of individuals that want to do it, but not really a whole lot of groups that are looking for more people.
I think that I definitely know what you're talking about. I definitely noticed that too in the last week for sure. I actually told someone the other day, I'm like, wow, look at all these people that are coming out. I said the exact same thing you did. I'm like, okay, it's kind of interesting. It's nice to see that because there's new blood coming in.
Yeah.
I don't think see, that almost goes back to exactly what we're saying. It's like it depends on like how the guild recruits. Some people might look at that and be like, you know what? That's awesome. Let's get another body in our guild. I'd love to have this guy here, just another person to play with. Other people are going to look at that and be like, I can tell right away, like, I don't want to play with this person just by how he conducted himself on the forums. Like, literally, your actions will conduct, for good or for worse.
Yeah.
For honestly, probably for good, to be honest, because you're going to be put with people that have similar mindset because of that. I think that the first thing people should do is there's a really nice guild recruitment section on TI. Make sure you read through that, guys. There's a lot of really nice updated posts. I know I gave a shout out to a few guilds a second ago, but check through some of those posts, guys. Before you go there, check out some of the guilds that there are offered on twinkinfo.com or bisnation.net. Read through them, see which ones you think match up to you. Maybe contact them directly rather than going to the forums. I think that shows. If you're showing that kind of commitment, that initiative. Yes, thank you. That initiative and that commitment to getting involved with the team, a guild's going to be more receptive to that than having almost a reverse wanted poster. Like, here's my statistics. I would like to join. Kind of thing.
Yeah, because I have seen a few of those too, where it's like a dude that posts. It's like, I'm 2K plus rated. I have all this, and it's like.
Oh man, that's a pet peeve of mine, man. Seriously, man. Like, here's a big pet peeve of mine. I could care fuck all what you're rated at endgame. Seriously, like that is something that's just like at this point it's like stupid. It's actually irrelevant, and I think that you get to a point where it's like you're a 3K RPG player. Okay, this person understands the game, but for the most part, it's like. I think the important thing is before you come in on a forum and, you make these kind of posts, play the bracket for a week. And that sounds weird, but sometimes, we tell all these people, hey, check out all these sites. This is where you can get involved. And immediately they're like, hey, you know what? Let me get involved in the community before I make my twink, figure out what I'm doing. But at the same time, in a bracket, especially like 19s, there's a level of acceptance. There's almost like a passage of acceptance that you need to go through before.
So is it kind of like if you're the new kid at school, you don't just walk in and say, yo, I'm the best basketball player, and everyone looks at you like,
I mean, you better
really,
be the best
dude?
basketball player at that point.
Like instead, just kind of be like, yo, I'd like to get in some pickup games when you guys are having them. Play the pickup games. People start to recognize and then say, hey, I mean, if you guys got a spot, I wouldn't mind, joining the guild or playing some games. And what you just mentioned, Diddle's Guild, it looks like he's looking to really put a team together with the purpose of the Twink Cup. So if you're interested you enjoy the ally side of things, check out Idolized on Khadgar. Maybe that will be something that fits for you.
Yeah. Um, one thing that I was gonna go on a little bit here is like from a 19th is interesting in the perspective that yes, there's a lot of people that take to the forums of 19s, and there's a lot of people that voice there. But there's also a lot of people that are just going to get credit for literally just playing. And that's why I keep reverting back to that. But it's like, you don't necessarily even have to have a TI account to have a voice in the bracket or a place in the bracket.
Sometimes actions speak louder than words.
Well, seriously, like if you put yourself out there and you just start playing, people are going to see you. They're going to see your name. They're going to evaluate how you're playing. You're going to make friends along the way. You're going to make enemies along the way. You're just going to figure out where you are from putting yourself in the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most important thing is that, this sounds silly, but you can't say it enough because you always see people that come in, they come in with 1,800 health and they're rocking tiger gear, and you're like, dude, like, tiger and gorilla gear, like non-enchanted rings.
They
like,
are best in slot of all time.
There's some sort of like, you gotta set yourself up in a position where you look respectable. And it's like, oh, I just want to try the bracket. It's like, that's great, man, but you're doing yourself a disservice by not gearing yourself, and you're giving yourself a bad experience for what the bracket actually is by coming in undergeared. And vice versa, you're making the game worse for everyone overall, and you're giving yourself a less chance of having a competitive game because you're undergeared. So there are some things that you need to cover in your own repertoire before entering games. But once you enter the game, once you get yourself involved, that's really where you need to start. And I think people will recognize you more on the field than on the forums. How about that?
I think I like that. I also think that's a good bow. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. That's a pretty good bow. I feel good about that.
Good on that? All right. Well, normal place is YouTube, the BIS Nation. If you have some time to kill and want to wait for pages to load, check out bisnation.net. Twitter, BIS Nation. Twitch, BIS Nation. Buns, what you at?
Twitch.tv/fearthebuns. I will not be streaming for about a week or so. I have to get some things sorted out in my household and my internet. Twitter @fearthebuns. Make sure you guys are going on the WoW forums and checking out the Twin Cup thread, promoting the Twin Cup, helping promote the bracket, etc., etc. Donations to Merm at Indiegogo. Check out Twink Info, the Twin Cup thread. Donate, sponsor, anything, etc. That's all I got. Shout out to Pankos, Gonzaga. I'd like to see in the Final Four.
Well, thanks, guys, for watching. Thanks, guys, for listening. And we will catch you next week. No more 2-week breaks, at least not in the foreseeable future.
Peace.